These are the complete interviews with the subjects for the documentary Encounters. The only editing performed on the footage are camera cuts, sound correction, and minor color corrections.
I'm gonna have the phone only for a timer.
No worries.
This one records forever. That one 30 minutes, and I have to reset.
Got it. I think, for what I was thinking, and I don't know how you would like to do it, feel free to ask all the questions, do my best, but it might be helpful, like I could walk you through some of the drawings and tell, like, this is what I remember from this
Right.
session,
And
or if it was a dream even.
what we'll do, we can lean up and we
Yeah.
can go through it right here, and then I can get some footage of the drawings in a little bit as well.
Perfect.
To start off with, because I don't have a paper here for the
Yeah.
not the disclosure, but the allowing me to use you on camera. Can you state your name and whether you agree to be on camera or not?
Yeah, my name is Tim Kaney, and I agree to be on camera and for you to use my whatever.
Okay. When I do this documentary, do you want me to maybe put like Tim K or?
Oh, you could just do like T. Kaney,
Okay.
if that works.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not too worried. I'm not
Gotcha.
trying to hide. I mean, this is like a big deal for doing this. First time going on camera doing it. So
All right.
that's kind of the goal, not to
Well,
hide.
to start off with, let's start off at the beginning. Why are we doing this interview?
We're doing this interview. Well, namely, I saw what your project was and became interested. And I think erasing this stigma of people having experiences and we can't talk about it because it's, taboo, this isn't happening, is wrong. So many people are sitting at home, either they know what's occurred to them for various reasons, or they don't, but they know something is wrong or that they have these memories. They need the ability to process and to know that others are out there like them. And some have gotten their understanding, their truth, and their peace, and they're able to move on. Many of us don't know that yet, and many of us are trying to figure that out. So hopefully, I'm in a boat like a lot of people, still trying to figure it out with bits and pieces. So hopefully, this will be something someone can say, "Oh, that's like me. I've had this happen," or like what's happened when I've gone into other groups and asked questions. I've met others who've I don't know from a hole in the ground, different states away. They describe almost exactly what I've seen, whether it was in a dream or a recovered memory. And we shared the same like emotional reaction to it. And I end up either drawing it for us to go, yeah, this was it, or I made a little animation, for example. And I believe that that's important to share all these things with other folks.
When was what you would say is your first experience?
I didn't know it at the time, but I believe my first experience when I was very young, maybe first, second, third grade. And it was the start of a recurring nightmare I had for years. I'll never forget it. In the nightmare, it looked like the Addams family were leaning over me, and I could see my knees up in the air, bare knees, and there was a device that would come down, almost looked like an old ornate oil oil can with a big spout. Never knew what that meant until later when I started doing some hypnosis sessions and through dreams, you know, what they tell you, and as you learn about this stuff, is that they can mask their images, whoever these folks are that are coming to visit us. And they can look like humans, they can look like animals. This is what other folks' theories are. And when you think about these dreams, why would a dog be doing this? Well, then it makes sense. So that was probably first, second grade, but I didn't really put it all together until I was probably in my mid-20s. And when I
How
realized that
often did you have these dreams?
in my mid-20s, it was almost every night for years. And they say that they come and go for maybe a period of 10 years, then stop. And when that happens, you almost feel like something's missing. And I had that happen probably late 20s when I felt like, something's not here anymore, but you can't put your finger on it. So I think there was early childhood around my college years, because I had a lot of dreams then.
Late teens, early 20s.
Yep. And then when I had my first child about 10 years ago, 26, mid 20s, that was when the prevalent 3:43 a.m. every night for probably a year, waking up like it's a night terror. And I can tell you more about that specific one that really started me wondering what is going on. And then more recently, they had stopped for probably 3, 4 years. Um, Probably in the last couple of years, I think maybe some more has gone on. Now, again, I don't have conscious memories of like, yeah, I went and shook the, whatever ET's hand, but it's always like disturbed sleep, strange dreams, and like sometimes they were just messages in your dream. For instance, there was one time I woke up because I had an image of me in a big round room just by myself standing, and this booming voice just said this random thing. It was, I think they said trillium glycosinate or something like that. Just 2 words. Something I would never ever know about. When I looked it up, there was some scientific, use for that sort of thing. And then why would I know about that?
Right.
That's the sort of thing that people probably experience in addition to, oh yeah, I saw a UFO or spaceship landed in my backyard, or I, gave the little space alien a piece of pizza. It varies, so it's tough to sift through.
Now, have you seen UFOs
I've
per
only
se?
seen one that I can really say for sure that I would call that. Most others I know, yeah, no, that wasn't one. Which is always strange to me because you hear a lot of experiences saying, yeah, I've seen them all my life. They dance pretty pictures in my backyard at night. This one was only really recently, and it was I usually went for walks in the Western Green Park pathway, starry night. For whatever reason, I looked right up there and I saw this little dot of light quickly travel in a J-hook pattern, then disappear. And I can never explain that.
Did that coincide with any of your dreams?
What's interesting is that one I don't particularly believe it did, but there's this theory out there that they can either mask themselves or when they're actually visiting you, it appears a different shape, which I've already said. Whenever I've walked out there, I've always been greeted by owls all the time. And I don't know how familiar you are with that, but that's a common theme where people think they're seeing owls at night in their window because of the face shape and all
Right.
that. Is that a coincidence? I don't know. But I do always think about those things when I'm walking out looking. I always find myself looking up at the stars, wondering, what's out there. So a lot of it is that. There's also always been my whole life this feeling of like I'm not at home. I'm not where I should be. And so, and maybe that's just a normal, like, out of place kid thinking that, but it's just always been there.
Now, the not at home part, is it like even when you're at home, you don't feel like you're at home, but
Yeah, sure.
not like you spent the night with a friend during
No.
grade school and
No.
you wake up and you don't recognize the room to
Right.
begin with, but just you're not,
You
it's
know
not where
where
you're supposed to be.
right. You know where you are. You know what you're doing, but it feels like you're waiting to go home, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
you're supposed to be at home somewhere else. Now that was when I was in elementary school. I even felt that, which is always strange to me because I had a home. I had a mom, brother, sister, or not a sister. Sorry, my kids have a sister. Wow. Um, but then later on, I remember specifically, probably a few years ago when this all was kind of unraveling for me, a dream where I was brought upon this like platform that was lit from the bottom, and I was basically either told or we'll say a lot of it is a feeling of like they're asking you a question. They said like I was looking down from like about cloud level. They're like, now is your chance. You can either come with us or stay at home. And I remember strongly feeling like I'm not done with my family here. So I need to stay with them because it was a feeling of like it would be permanently, like then I would be gone. Now,
Now, was that feel kind of like a what they would call an out of body experience, or
that one was strange because I wasn't awake. I was dreaming, but it felt like I was really there when I woke up, that this really happened. You know, it's like a lucid dream, but it was during sleep time. It felt like I was kind of maybe out of body. I do know that there's people that say while you do hear about physical abductions, they can also take your spiritual form,
oh yeah,
whatever
exactly.
astral projection. They can take your mind and your energy from your body and, you know, do these things with you. So, I mean, there's so many things that have been fragmentedly presented to me. I have a good idea, but not the whole picture.
Right. Yeah, I've asked questions on others that have had where the aliens have spoken to them, or
Yeah.
other beings have spoken to them. The voice, is that your voice that you're hearing? Is it? Can you describe how the? Is it some? Is it where you recognize it as another voice?
I don't recognize it as a voice. It's almost like an emotion, which is
Okay.
weird because you see a lot of people, a lot of writings, research where they're emotionless. But I believe what they try to do, it's almost like a handler putting an animal at ease. Like, you know, you're seeing Crocodile Dundee going like this
Right.
to put the animal at rest. But like it varies. So there was a time in like the one I just mentioned where it was a loud male booming voice, almost like they were trying to be like godlike, and it came from nowhere. Never saw a creature, alien, whatever, and I woke up from that. The other times, it's more of a feeling they give you. I've never seen their mouths move in my hypnosis sessions. It's like I have a thought and they're telling me about it. I know it's not my voice, but it's like a neutral, just kind of not male or female, just very direct, you know? Um, there was one that was like a recovery memory of when these would happen when I was a kid, and they talk to you like a parent would a kid. So they have that understanding. They show me an image of a like this intertwined set of rings moving around. And I took that to be from the hypnosis session that they were trying to distract the child's mind to not be afraid. But this terror was already there, you know. One of the drawings I'll share with you from that hypnosis session, the being that I saw was there tapping on my bedroom window. My brother and I shared a room that was below level partially, so it was a small
Right.
window above ground, and he's like looking sideways. And then there was more to that. So, but yeah, the voices, they don't talk a whole lot.
It's hard being a one man band.
Well, you're doing awesome. I mean, I've seen a lot of your footage and stuff. It looks really sharp.
Thank you.
I mean, I think it would look great. And I was actually really excited to connect with some of those other folks just because I know that like one of them, Steve, if he
Mhm.
reached out, he was very open to it, but he has still yet to tell his wife about everything and said, you know, I have to do this secretly. And
Yeah.
that's so terrible, but I
Yeah.
get it. Um, so this was the first one, that first nightmare I've had. And what I always remember is this other eye like blurred vision face. Like I thought as a kid it was just because I saw the Addams Family.
Right.
But as I got older and learned more about this stuff, my theory is that it's a screen memory lost
And
to nightmare.
this is the oil thing you were talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And this guy's eyes were kind of blurred out, so were theirs, but they were just standing there like blank faced. And one was female in appearance like Morticia and Gomez, but this person being was right next to me all the time. And I believe as we did hypnosis sessions that because of these I would start to dissociate as a kid, if that's really what
Right.
had gone on. So very, you know, I remember just very traumatic emotions with that. And what I've been led to believe is they were, you know, retrieving samples. I don't know what, but that would go inside of our bodies and
Right.
be very uncomfortable. This one, this is all out of order. This is one of the sketches that happened when I kind of blanked out and started drawing on my desk at work one night. I've asked around about like what people thought it could be, and maybe I just scribbled random junk, but there seems to be some characters that are similar to ancient ones, but it's not whole, so I don't know
Right.
what it means. And then again, this is like an experience that I can't explain, and no one else has been able to, even in the UFO groups. This is one that I colored in from a sketch I did, and what I remember about this was it was a lucid dream. All of a sudden, I was a kid standing over this creature looking like this. Now, yes, it looks like the biomechanical suits from Independence Day, but there's some noticeable differences. And this was before I did shading and the grading. This is what I remember seeing. I don't know why I was showed it, but
Right.
this thing was just in there coming out of its suit from what I can remember.
Now, this part here, is that
Yeah.
more like skull structure or?
This, what I came to believe about it, again, I'm not told much. I
Right.
don't remember explanations, just that they were almost like antennae of some kind.
Okay.
Not bony, but fleshy, and that's just how I interpreted them in the dream. Now I called it mantid because of the shape and positions of the arms, but it doesn't look like a lot of the mantid stuff I've seen
Yeah.
out there. All I can say is I had this dream about this, and I drew what I saw, and it seems more than just a dream because I felt a memory and emotion with it. If that makes
Yeah.
sense. So here was another one that I started drawing at work one day, and it was like this figure with light behind it, with two bright stars top and bottom, with another light ring on the outside. When I asked about it, one of the people in the UFO group said, "Oh, that reminds me of something I was shown. I was taken through a portal of some kind to Orion, or a nebula, and this is what that nebula looked like." Now, it doesn't look
Gotcha.
exactly the same,
But
but
you got your two bright spots. You've
yeah,
got your curvature in it.
and I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I just thought that was very interesting. This is one that really freaked me out. It was about the time the pandemic started. I had a dream going through like an urgent care ER room, and I remember hearing "It's all about the magnesium" from a random voice. Didn't see anybody. Turned around, and I got this feeling of I shouldn't be there, like I was in trouble. It was a mirror, as far as I knew, that I was looking in, and this was the image that stared back at me. So, very elongated head, bald head, but these very reddish sockets where their eyes would be, with these very bulging whites and pupils, with this kind of like stern look. It reminds me of the episode of The Cage of Star Trek from a long time ago. That might be influencing it, but what I remember is this horrible feeling like I wasn't supposed to be there and I shouldn't have seen anything, and that this was either me or someone else trying to get me out of there. They never spoke, just this really awful image.
But it had an expression.
Yeah. Now, I also submitted this to that UFO group, the experiencer group, and asked them if they've ever seen anything like this. And this is as I'm learning all this stuff. They said that they believe this was an Arcturian, Arcturian, and
Right.
apparently there's all kinds of races out there. I had never heard of them, never knew what they were. But that's about as far as it goes sometimes, because you have your question, you get an answer, then you have to process on your own.
Right.
This one here was a really interesting thing recently. Came out of one of the hypnosis sessions where I remember being returned onto my driveway and looking up in the sky, and this is what I saw. The sky was a kind of a pinwheel of colors, turning all these different colors, yellows, greens, whites, blues, purples. And at the center was this dark little mass, which I took to be the ship spiraling slowly outward and upward. And I did kind of the reverse, because it would be these sets of colors and then the inverse as it flashed and did that.
Got you.
I did another version of it because it looked like there was a glow in the center. But I also did let me see if I can find it. an animation of it. Well, anyways, when I did that and the animation, the group, there was another person in there and talked about an experience, and he had seen the exact same thing when he was brought back or returned. This kaleidoscopic lights in the sky sort of thing. That made me sort of reassured that, you know, it wasn't just a figment of imagination that somebody else had seen it, but it also is very unsettling knowing that these things are happening.
Yeah.
They're real, and people are left to wonder what's been going on. I got a couple others here that were kind of out of order. I'll start with, oh, here was the original drawing of that one. At first, it didn't have a mouth, and then as I remembered more, it seemed like it did have a little slit.
Are these coming through the hypnosis sessions also?
Some are just straight up lucid dreams that I used to
so having dream after dream after dream, and gotcha. Okay.
So this is the one from the hypnosis session. Very creepy.
That's the one looking through the window.
Yep. And what I found interesting was he wasn't your typically described gray. He seemed more tall and slender, more round turned eyes, very black, but more pale colored. And I remember his finger, I remember in the hypnosis tapping, kind of like playing with a kid, you know, like, hey, what's going on?
Like you would do a fish tank.
Yeah, basically. And I remember great fear as that memory happened. But then I also remember consciously that I used to hide under my covers in bed, and I would feel things touching me, pressing on me, and I remember a light. That is a conscious memory.
Right.
I thought maybe as a kid I was just fearful of the night and it was all in my head until more recently. In that dream, this is a little out of order again. This is the ship sorry, not the dream, the hypnosis.
Okay.
It feels like a dream when you're doing
I understand.
This was a ship I remember seeing. It had this flashing, like, amber light at the top that would spin. I remember it feeling like it was a gold-colored ship with these 3 points and these boosters on the side. Again, if it was really that, I don't know. Maybe it was different and they put an image in my mind of a rocket ship I would recognize as a kid. Sorry about that. Yeah, they're out of order. Shoot. Where is that other drawing? The other one, I have to go to ArtStation here quick. Basically, it was part of that same hypnosis where what I saw was my feet wrapped up in my blanket, and I was being floated to their ship. So that ship is like the third scene. And I remember that blanket very well. It had little dinosaurs. My mom had made it. There was 3 beings, him, but I was seeing them all as energy. They were silhouetted like bright energy. He had this little device in his hand, so I assume he was, you know, the foreman, so to speak.
Right.
The others were like bluish purple energy, which I don't know if I was in a different state of mind to see their energy. Some people say that, you know, they see light beings instead of little aliens.
Yeah.
Again, all I can say is what I saw in the hypnosis session.
And do you mind like sending me some of the stuff you just went through the Google image, and then I can tie that?
Yep.
in?
We'll just do that. Here's another one, more recent. This wasn't from, oh, sorry. I should show this little animation. That's kind of how I remember. It wasn't a perfect pinwheel.
It was kind of
wavering.
pulsating.
Yep,
and-
pulsating.
okay.
And I remember the memory of that. I was just transfixed, laying on my back as a kid in the middle of the night and watching this thing go away. Now, other piece to this is as that left, I remember looking over, and the girl that was my neighbor at the time got up and ran to her house next to me. So my assumption is that whatever happened to us together, which is always, as we're kids alone. That's, even if we're like not able to move or conscious, I believe that our bodies have these psychic emotional memories of anything traumatic. So I think that lives with folks like all the time. This one was really upsetting to me. It was actually not that this is one I drew, but not that this is like super scary. It involved my kids. recently that they were being taken and screaming in fear, and I couldn't save them. When I turned around, this image of this person in a biosuit is what was staring at me. You know, mouth agape, eyes wide like that. Can't explain it. Just
And your kids, as far as you know, haven't had any experiences or anything?
not as far as I know. We had a break-in a few years ago, and our son was scared of getting up in the middle of the night because he thought people were watching. Is it because of the break-in? Probably. Is it something else? I don't know.
Right.
So now we live in this like world of what is going on sometimes, and what is that really happening?
And I'm going to ask this, it probably has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a possibility of, say, even the break-in
Yeah.
government? Because
Well, so here's the thing. You can't rule it out because it would be foolish to do so based on what we already know. They've already come forward and said, "Oh, actually, you know what? They're real, and we actually call them UAPs." So,
but 2 years ago they said we can't explain what it is.
right,
2 weeks ago they say it's otherworldly and
Right.
not man-made.
right. Well, unfortunately or fortunately, we actually know who broke in, and it was completely not government related. However, to answer that question, when I was having those nights waking up at 3:43 a.m. every day, um, I remember speaking to my brother on a cell phone. And you know, when you had a party line when we were kids, you could hear somebody pick up. I would hear that on my cell phone. And I knew enough as a movie buff to go, that's not just a cell phone misfiring. I really thought something was being tapped. But, you know, people watching this, they're probably, oh, he's paranoid, whatever. But you decide, right? I know what I heard. I didn't tell everybody. I just was like, hey, this was happening during that time. I also remember a very random flash of memory where I'm looking up at the sky as if I had woken up outside and a Black Hawk helicopter flies over. But that's it. It's like a fragmented memory that I don't know if I'll ever get back. I think it's very possible that people who have had a lot of experiences are probably being kept tabs on, especially if they reach out, you know, to try to tell their story, or if they're making waves. I don't see why that wouldn't be a possibility.
And it's
I mean, for crying out loud, we outlawed margarine, and we had laws about margarine. Why would this be out of the realm of possibility? I think it could be possible.
I'm gonna share that camera, then I got another question for you.
Yep. I have more from that that hypnosis session too, and then
Okay.
another one that I think might be probably more interesting. It was the last session I did where I got images of what I was led to believe based on what they were telling me. It's not like they sat there and spoke.
Right.
It's like they had this knowledge they just put in my head, and it was, I believe, as I drew it, what they were telling me is how some of their devices are powered. Of a whole bunch of people, you know, drinking the wrong Kool-Aid
Right.
in the wrong time, wrong place, wrong time sort of thing.
Now-
So here, this was, I forgot to show you the colored in version of that.
Okay. And
So-
that gives you that color back there
Yeah.
of what we saw with the nebula.
Yep. I pretty fluent with Photoshop, so that's been helpful for me to process. Just doing this helps just get it out there, and then I can let it go. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or is this other one?
Now, while you're looking that up,
Yeah.
when we were just talking about the government, have you found any strange marks on your body? Anything you could be where something was implanted, things like that?
Probably couldn't say no. Or yes. Sorry. Wow. I've only found one mark on my left thigh, but I'm pretty sure that's just a scar
Just
that's been
happened.
there
Gotcha.
for a while. I'm very familiar with what folks have found and what they, you know, believe. Well, there's a good documentary on Discovery Plus about, I think it's called Aliens in Alaska. And native person living up there had gone to a local doctor complaining of something that was always in his leg, bothered him. Well, they did the whole, like, they got the local doctor on camera to excise it, right? They scanned it with an EMF detector and it went off the charts. And that doctor didn't want anything more to do with the interview. He was freaked out. So it's definitely stuff that is out there. The only other thing that I've ever wondered about is I have a very deviated septum in my nose to the point where it's almost to the left-hand side. I've never, as far as I know, been hit with a ball, broken my nose, nothing like that. When I was a kid, I always got bloody noses. Nothing's in there right now as far as I know, but I've always wondered. And that's about as far as I can say on those.
Right.
I don't know. I did have a ganglion cyst removed on my left wrist. Again, that's not probably what, you know, one would consider a result of experiences.
Right.
But the one thing I've always wondered is if wherever we're having these experiences, is if it's earthly, fine. But if it is in another part of space, you know, we're exposed to cosmic rays and radiation. As far as like implants, that sort of thing,
Not
I
that you
don't,
know of.
not that I know of. It could be there,
Right.
but we just don't know. Um, so this was a random one. This was a kind of, sometimes the hypnosis doesn't go as planned, but then you get these short images of memories. This was one I remember. I was a kid and I saw this small little craft with these 3 legs, this kind of like Christmas tree light top half. I remember running out of our house to see it, and then I got this impression as a kid that I was in trouble and couldn't see it, ran back in. Now, the hypnosis specialist thought that those moments are when your memories are being altered so that you don't remember them. And that as a kid, it's easy to
That's why
think,
you have to run away from it.
supposedly. I just felt like when I have these, I can't stop thinking about them unless I draw them out and then I can let it go. Otherwise, it's like an anxious thought that's always there. And we thought maybe this was I don't know, it sounds nerdy to say these things, but a scout ship. I don't know. Again, we don't know what these
It doesn't
things are.
look much different than what your other ship looked like.
No, no, it doesn't. And then that memory was over. Another one in the same set of images was this. It looked like a fidget spinner, if I could describe it any way possible. 4 arms, but it was a massive ship, and I was down in the ground, and it was just slowly coming over the treetops, and these arms would kind of swivel like a big top.
Mm-hmm.
Again, then it was over, and I'm left with wondering what that's all about. But the one that I think is probably more interesting is this room. This was a view in a room, and the room kind of reminded me of like a Willy Wonka or the Joker set, because there was no right angles, no straight walls. It was all a sphere, and down from the middle of the sphere was this column. And at the beginning, I thought it was a sphere, a solid sphere that was in there, but then I got these images that it was actually looked like the end of a ball mixer. So they had flanges, and you can see I wrote that like
Right.
these flanges would be there if it wasn't spinning. So
like a cake mixer.
yeah, like a cake mixer. But then deep inside of that, I got this image of this black rod with a green flame roiling around it. And the inside of this room was striped, greenish yellow.
Did the stripes stay, or did they move like the kaleidoscope did with the?
So as far as I know, this room stayed stationary, but this sphere and the rod were spinning within it.
Okay.
And again, no words were spoken to me. It was just this impression of here, this must be, or it was like a deduction almost, like this must be how they power their craft.
Right.
And, you know, what I felt was very interesting is this part, this rod with a flame. It wasn't like a licking flame. It was like a almost like a plasma, I guess I would say it was liquid, that would go up and around it, and there was a white light on the outside of it. So again, I don't know what it all means other than it's my educated guess. Now, recently I remember hearing, it was a YouTube video shared of the story of that there was I think a sheriff's deputy or police officer who made a report of coming across a craft on his shift, and he was actually invited on board their craft, and he described something very much similar to that, a central column with some sort of power device, electromagnetic, I don't know what you would call it, in the center of the craft. And I never heard that before I did this drawing. Right. It was way after, just a couple weeks ago. So when you think about all these commonalities, another person shared that, yep, I've seen something like that. People must be seeing the same thing, because it wouldn't happen just by coincidence. Right. Then the last few bits that I'll share is this was kind of the image I did. I saw this being working on me with what looked like a scalpel, but it wasn't. It was just like this long device with markings on it. And I was laying down. Where he was working was along my midsection. I got the impression he was doing something to my hip. I don't know. His features were very much like that manted one I showed you, but slightly different. He wasn't in a suit. He was very tall and skinny, kind of like
shorter neck.
Yeah, shorter neck. But there were these protrusions from his head that either were conical or flat-like. But what I found interesting is my observation of myself told me I was out of body, and it must have been. I don't know if everybody's like this, but the mind develops a way to cope. And this must have been it, because I don't know that they make people fully unconscious. They just may not be able to move. So
sleep paralysis is a thing.
Right.
It's pretty common with the experiences. So.
Yeah. So that would probably be the last, kind of story to share with you about the one time that it was very conscious, what I remembered, 3:43 a.m. The next part of that memory, when he was working on me, is seeing this device being projected into in the region of my face. This is what I remember seeing face on. There's these little, I know they look like sci-fi from the 50s, the golden era.
Hyper probes with.
Yeah, so it was a square device. These probes were creating this energy to this central point. And then after that, it projected this beam of energy into my head. That's what I remember from the hypnosis. Again, not a conscious memory. It was in the hypnosis. And I remember lots of emotions during this: fear, pain. I remember it popping. What it was doing, I can't tell you. Then the memory stops.
The person that's doing the hypnosis, how did they react to what you were re-experiencing?
She was trying to calm me down, because normally in hypnosis, you have the recall without emotion. With me, she says my subconscious and my conscious beings, if you will, are very much intertwined, and they're hard to separate. So she was trying to calm me down at first. And by that time, she had seen that I was pretty worn out from it's a physical event when you're doing hypnosis for 3 hours. So she tried to get me out of that, and she wasn't surprised. And it seems that she's heard similar stories, and they had, this is not uncommon for experiencers. For me, it was a new thing. She doesn't try to tell you what it means. Just try.
In other words, she's not.
No.
That's been one of the complaints, is sometimes these people will implant these memories into your head.
Not with this woman. She's very good. She just tells, you start with getting to a comfortable place emotionally in your mind, a visualization of being in a cloud and going back to a memory that you want to figure out. And she'll ask you some basic questions, and eventually it will come to, what are you seeing? What are you feeling? And what do you think about that? Or now what are they doing? With her, that's how that is. I have heard people complain too, that they're like, oh, that must be this. Oh yeah, of course, that's what I'm seeing.
Right.
Not so in these. They come pretty rapidly when I tell her I'm seeing something and without a lot of prompting. So I mean, there's times when she's like, wow, we weren't expecting that. But other times,
But she's not saying, wow, we weren't expecting you to see beings around you. And so all of a sudden you're thinking beings are around you type stuff. She's
really,
not
no.
prompting your thoughts.
Not
That's
that I can remember. I'll usually have come to her and said, hey, I had this dream. Can we look at that? The other one that I really came to her first was, why did I wake up at 3:43 a.m. every day for that long? And we still, when we get into hypnosis, subconscious says, no, we can't go there. I can't handle it. I don't know what that means or if we'll ever get through it. But one last thing I'll share with you, and it's not a drawing here.
Okay.
It was one of the nights I woke up 3:43, and it was sleep paralysis. I couldn't move, couldn't open my eyes. My heart was pounding in my chest, and the biggest part about it that tells me it wasn't just a sleep paralysis is I heard and felt this droning hum in my ears and in my whole body. And if I can describe it anyway clearly, it sounded just like the drone on the that Star Trek movie with the whales.
Yeah.
That's what it reminded me of. It was like,
That was the third one, I think.
yeah, the third one. But it wasn't the same. It was deep and vibrating. It just had that sort of like don 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 don.
And you could feel the
could feel it.
noise and yeah.
And it felt ominous at the same time. Within a few seconds, though, I was able to sit up like you just had a nightmare, even though I have no memory of dreaming. I look at my wife, she's not awake, and I try to wake her. Nothing could. And immediately I had this sense of dread that something was near my bedside. And as we are primal beings, in an instinct, I reached out to like swipe at it. All I felt was cold. I didn't see anything, and there was nothing there technically. But as I brought my hand back, I watched the shadow flit out of our bedroom window. What it was, I still don't know, but I know that there were experiences at that place that we lived at that disrupted my sleep for almost a year.
Now, have you had any experiences here?
Only a few,
Okay.
yes.
How does we talked at the very beginning about stigma.
Yeah.
How does your wife feel about this?
She's thankfully very understanding, very open to it. Doesn't always think that everything is related to that, which I've gotten really good at. Like, no, that is something else. But it's hard for her to understand at the same time because she's not gone through the experiences. And, she's more of like, got to see it to believe it. And I am too. I think I'm very lucky to have somebody very, we'll say, patient with me, as well. Sometimes I got a little obsessed, like I got to figure this out. And now I've kind of got to where I can with all the information I have.
Now, has she been able to see a difference, like as you've gone through your hypnosis and getting these
Yeah.
ideas off of your mind?
Yeah, she's definitely been able to see where I come back calmer, like a weight's been lifted, where I have a better understanding of them. But then, 2, 3 months, maybe 6 months later, I'll be plagued by another set of nightmares or dreams or experiences, and I can't figure it out. So the hypnosis lady and I chat a lot, and she'll be like, before I say I got to come in, I'll sort of say, hey, this is what happened. Do you think we need to investigate that? And she'll be, yeah, maybe. And she's been very good because she told me straight up, the initial hypnosis she charges a fee for, but if she finds it to be a very interesting case requiring more, she won't charge you because
And she wants to know.
she wants to know. She wants to gain knowledge. So I find that to be really fortunate. And, just for everybody watching, it's QHHT, the quantum healing technique, made famous by Dolores Cannon. I researched a lot, and the folks in the support group said that's what you want to look for because it's much safer and much more efficient at getting these memories. So yeah, it's been a wild ride. And with all this, I did find a lot of usefulness in joining MUFON to help folks. They have a different team that does the experience stuff with, contactees. I do just the saw stuff in the sky. But even just being able to talk with folks and say, hey, this is all right. I know it's really stressful, but other people see these things, kind of like a counselor, if
Right.
that makes sense. It's helped me a lot too.
Well, I hope that this helps you a little bit tonight too.
No, it does. It feels really good to get it off my chest.
Yeah.
I've done it with other contactees and experiencers, and having you at my home, kind of letting it all, probably people's deepest secrets out there.
Right.
I think this is what I got to do moving forward.
Well, we're gonna try to get the stories out there.
Yeah, awesome.
I guess I'm gonna get ready.
Yep.
To pack up because I got another one. To do.
Yeah, no worries. Appreciate it.
But we haven't left out anything or much anyway, correct?
No, just some random little experiences that I just, by this time, chalk up to, yeah, they were probably checking on me, and other times I'm like, I don't